Today we're going to be taking a look at the Braton Prime. This thing's pretty crazy. Is it going to replace your main weapon? Probably not, but it is a suitable weapon for newcomers, especially even though they might not be able to access it for a while. I don't really know. You get it from the steel path, chart, thing, tower. I don't know. It's so glitchy. I love it though, but basically it's like the other Incarnon weapons. You get some headshots, you fill up the bar. When you fill up the bar, you can activate your heavy or your alt fire or whatever to have it do the Incarnon swap. Really cool. It looks aesthetically great. Look at that. It fits my aesthetics perfectly. I love that you can see that it's in the Incarnon form. And basically, it gives you AoE. We got an AoE Braton. So, like I said, will this replace your main weapon? Let's find out. As you can see, there's some funky status procs popping up. And we're going to learn all about that in just a second. But I will let you know this particular build is supposed to be in tandem with a nourish user. So this is specifically intended for someone using the helmet ability nourish or is using Grendel with nourish on it. If you don't like that, that's too bad. This is kind of a min-maxed, slightly min-maxed. It could probably be more optimized possibly, but other content creators are going to cover the baby Braton. If you want a baby's first Braton Incarnon, this is not the build guide for you. This is for big boys. This is for the biggest of boys. Now, I'm not going to go through every Incarnon tree because, like I said, other more boring warframe content creators who it's their literal fucking job to do that will go through every skill tree. I'm going to go over what I think is the best because there's enough to talk about there. So to start, like I said, you alt fire to transmute your thing after you get some headshots. The first one, now this is written like an ESL King wrote it. Increase damage by 2. Or is it like increased damage by 2, multi-shot consumes ammo directly capacity and increases damage. Like it's just written weirdly. Regardless, this is basically just increasing our damage and it's allowing for some of the ammo to be taken from our reserves as opposed to our current magazine. So it's good. Basically, it's good. Now, the second one, this is on punch through hit, gives us a 20% chance to restore 10% ammo. This is nice because we are using a little bit more ammo since it's coming out of our bank and out of our pocket. But the punch through, this weapon does not have innate punch through even in the Incarnon form, unfortunately. So I don't believe that the explosion will count for punch through if it hits multiple people. So you will need a punch through mod or a punch through riven on this weapon, which I do have. Now, the final one, this is the tree that has the beginner's trap. This is the one that looks the worst, but is the best. It's the same with a lot of these other Incarnon weapons, like the Furlax, for example. A lot of people think, let's pull it out right now. Let's find the Furlax, and we're going to look at it right in front of your fucking face. So the Furlax, a lot of people see this minus critical chance, 50% chance to deal 2000% damage on non-critical hits. It's different, but it's the same kind of concept where it seems like this is the worst if you're smooth-brained. But if you're a big brain and you know how to work it, it's actually 10,000 times better. So like I said, this final node has 2 beginner trap options, like increases status chance, and then there's this one. It gives the increased critical damage by 3. That's not like a diminishing returns, linear scaling, additive type thing. It's just a flat 3. So we're going from 2 times critical multiplier, like it says here, to 5. That is impressive. A 5 times critical multiplier before mods, before your Hero buff, before your Ivara buff. So this is actually like kind of huge. Kind of huge. So let's go over first and foremost. As you can see, let's look at the crit because this is crit focused. 16.8 times critical multiplier before the vigilante set bonus which will enhance the critical damage even higher, and before primary frostbite, which this is basically, I believe it's 90% critical damage. So I don't know if this is taking the 90% and just adding it flatly to this or timesing it, but it potentially has a 30 times multiplier on this weapon. Potentially. I'm not sure how the Warframe math works with the arcane going on to this. I don't really know because nobody has really done anything with the primary frostbite arcane, but I've been working very steadily to try and fit this into a build without it seeing force. Now, as we mentioned before, the Incarnon adapter's 4th slot, or whatever the last slot is, has a thing that stipulates that under 50% critical chance. Under 50% critical chance. As you can see, the base critical chance is 30. So if you add any critical chance to it at all, basically, let's find Let's find the brown critical strike. Let's look at this. And we're going to go from 30 to 75. So we're losing a lot of damage by doing that. But as you can see, we still have the, like, look at that. We still have the critical multiplier from it. So I do believe that right now it's bugged and it is allowing you to just put on like critical delay, or I don't have the slots for it, or whatever you want there, and it will function. So that's definitely bugged. So I'm future-proofing my build and accounting for that. That's totally a bug. That's got to be a bug. And we're using galvanized scope. This is going to be great because when we're in our non-incarnate form, we're not really going to be affected by anything. But when we're in the incarnate form, in order to get the maximum critical chance out of it, you simply don't aim. But on top of that, even if it does get fixed one day, it may be that because the way this specific mod works is it only starts applying when you're in the match. So this might bypass that glitchiness regardless, even if so I'm basically, this is to future proof it. You can put whatever you want here for now, like point strike or whatever, but in the future I theorize the galvanized strike or scope is going to be the best option. And on top of that, a lot of people think that, AoEs don't get headshots. They don't have headshot multipliers. What's very unique, well, not really unique because this functions like the Kuva Chakar gang. So this is getting a normal projectile when it's in the incarnate form and an explosive. So it's a double whammy, which is really nice. So let's go over the rest of the mods now that we got that kind of out of the way. So I'm using a Riven, like I said. We have multi-shot cold and punch through. For your purposes, you would put a cold mod there. If you were to replicate this exact build, you would put prime cryo rounds there or whatever you want there, but you will also need some sort of punch through to take advantage of that other incarnate thing we saw. So you would either use prime shred, or if you're a poor broke ass bitch, you're going to use metal auger. But I don't think metal auger goes through 2 enemies. I think it goes through 1 and into the second, because I think most enemies have 1.1 like weight of punch through. I don't know, like the bodies, there's a whole line, there's a big page about punch through on the wiki, so I'll leave that to you to go correct me on. But basically we have a lot of status chance and a lot of critical damage. So our stats our spread is all over the place. Most people will look at this in a vacuum and be like, this spread sucks, I don't like this, why are you not stacking this over that? So let me explain it to you. Because we have so much multi-shot, we have a lot of multi-shot, 3.4 before Gal Chamber and before the Frostbite. Because of that, we're getting all 4 of these elements. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, all 4 of them. We're getting them extremely fast. We're basically getting all of these in one bullet. So a lot of people know that impact and puncture are relatively bad status effects that you don't want. But the bulk of the statuses that we're getting and the damage that we're getting, it almost kind of negates that. And like I said, we're going to be using Nourish. So don't forget we're using Nourish. I know you're looking at the radial attack and thinking, wow, blast damage, that's probably trash. It's probably doing no damage. At base, it has... let's look at it with no mods. No mods, you will get heat from the explosion, which is very cool. The way the element weighting of this weapon works is kind of weird, but I'll leave that to someone whose fucking job it is. Let's specifically talk about my build. So we are getting critical chance, or critical hits, I should say. So the Hunter's Munitions will proc a lot. We're getting procky docs on this bad boy. So because... like most of the time you don't want cold or puncture weighting or impact weighting. I understand that. But like I said, between the Nourish and between the just high numbers, it's big numbers. Normally big numbers lie to you, and if you build for just big numbers, it's not going to work. But we basically have a workaround for that because there's just so much going on with this weapon. It's not just flat puncture. It's all of this shit, which includes a good weighting for slash on top of Hunter's Munitions. You could probably swap out Hunter's Munitions for something if you're finding it procking in the future because of them updating this. So hopefully this will be future-proofed, but maybe not. Let's take a walk, shall we? Come with me. Let's go take a walk. Let's take a look at this weapon in the test chamber. So as you can tell, it procs with headshots, so you won't get the incarnate form. Let's just prove it. You're not going to get it from shooting the body. You got to shoot the head. All right? Pretty classic stuff there. I'm just going to shoot these guys so you can see, like, look at all the procs we're getting. We're getting a lot of procs. Let me just shoot this guy once. Shot him once. Don't pay attention to the viral, because the viral's coming from Nourish and from our pet. Just pay attention to the other procs, basically. But you see how every shot I am getting slash procs on top of the other stuff. So it's not like we're going to be missing the slash procs. We will pretty much always be consistently getting the slash procs, especially with our Incarnon shit and the Hunter's munitions. So I have been able to hit 100k with one bullet in this test chamber. This thing can really pack a wallop. So I don't even know if we have Gal Chamber fully built up. We probably do now. But as you can see, we're getting big damage off these headshots. As I said before, it probably shouldn't be working on the headshots. That should probably be decreasing my my damage. But we're still getting the crazy critical multiplier of headshots, even though I am above the 50%. Because as you can see, when we're shooting like this, from my testing, it seems like it's less damage than the aiming, even though it's not supposed to be that way because of the description of it. So it's complicated, right? It's complicated, and there's some jank going on, which is my favorite part of Warframe is jank, right? Everybody's favorite part is jank. But as you can see, it kills everything really fast. We're going to take this into a live fire exercise in just a second. So feel free to use the annotations or whatever the fuck they're called to navigate to that. So I'm going to shoot in the Incarnon form without Nourish, and we're just going to kind of browse like what happens. As you can see though, we get some big numbers just by shooting without anything. We're hitting some 5,000s and whatnot, but it seems like the numbers get much higher. Maybe I'm insane, maybe I'm senile, but I feel like the numbers are, it shouldn't be getting this high. Basically, the critical, there's something janky going on that's not working. Because sometimes there's some weapons where you will get the red number and it's actually less damage than the white number, but I don't think that's the case in this scenario. From all my testing, and feel free to slow the footage down, watch it at 10% or whatever the YouTube lets you do. But from my testing, it does seem like it's not just like visually the don't pay attention to the colors, the damage is being increased. It seems like no, it's actually there's something funky going on here, and it's really cool. So that's pretty much it, right? We'll kill these guys, and remind you, I'm shooting them right now without Nourish. So that's without like our main damage source is Nourish. With Nourish, it's insane. The damage you will get from Nourish is absolutely insane. And this is not really like the highest possible damage Nourish. This is a pretty decent Nourish on this build. So yeah, this is the weapon. We'll clear these guys, and then we're gonna go into an actual, probably a Lua mission. Let's go into a Lua mission, shall we? We'll do a quick 10-minute mission so you can see it actually in progress. Alright, so we're in a mission. So this is kind of a health tank build that I'm using. Asian Invasion did a build similar to mine. Mine's kind of like more min-max than his. He took it a community build anyway, so it's not like it was his build. He admitted to it in his video, but yeah, if you'd like more information on this build, maybe I'll post it, maybe I won't, who knows. But they took my fucking Braton. These starting enemies are so annoying here. They're always taking my weapon. Half the time I'm loading in, they kill me before the mission starts, and I'm not ready because I'm like drinking coffee or like indulging in substance abuse. So I don't really like those starting enemies, but regardless, I'm not gonna focus too hard, because like when you're talking and whatnot, it's a little harder to play everything perfectly optimally than to like when you're in the zone and what have you. So this is kind of for fun. Will probably only last 10 minutes, but just to give you a little brief like synopsis of how the weapon works, because I feel like after 10 minutes you can usually kind of see how it scales. I know that the real test is taking everything to level cap, but I think that a lot of times for general gameplay scenarios, you don't need to actually go all the way to level cap to be able to like understand, all right, this weapon works. Because if it works at like, I feel like if it's working at 500, it's going to scale that like the way viral slash and everything works. Like most things you can tell like, all right, this is scaling. You really can start telling. My litmus test is I'll take a weapon into a mission for an hour, and if I'm having difficulty after an hour, then it's like I'm not even going to bother trying to level cap because something's wrong with the weapon. It should be lasting longer than this. So that's kind of my personal litmus test. But with this weapon, I'm probably going to be doing a lot of not aiming down the sights, but I theorize that as we get to really high level skill path, I would have to aim down the sights a lot to get the extra critical chance bonus from the galvanized scope. But like I said, it's probably glitched, and I want to kind of future-proof this build. But I have to at least mention it, right? So smoke them if you got them. Put stat critical chance on this and have it work, even though it says it's not supposed to. It's not my problem, right? I feel like the Lua conjunction survival is a good litmus test because it starts off with, what are these, 180? Starts with 180 level enemies, which is not like crazy, but it's like decent, I guess, like as far as starting enemies go. So I feel like an hour playing in this difficulty on this mission is like playing like 3 hours on fucking mirror defense or something like that. Maybe it's just the frames or the objective or what, I don't know, but maybe it's the enemy types, right? Because this is a different enemy type than that. But either way, I do think that this is a great way to test your stuff. Just do a 10-minute run of this and see how it goes, see how far you can get. But that, like I said, we'll probably only do 10 minutes of this because there's only so much you can say about the Incarnon weapons. I think the Incarnon weapons, this isn't going to replace your Tenet Archiplasmor with the God Roll Ribbon. This isn't going to replace your Kuva Pooper or whatever. This is not going to be everyone's new main weapon that they're going to go to. It's not going to be like how the Natara came out and it totally changed the way people played forever. This is something different. This is undoubtedly going to be some people's main weapon. It's going to be their best weapon they have, but not for everyone. I'm also concerned about how you get the weapon. I got it from the Steel Path tower thing in the chart. And I don't know. It seems like this is a weapon made to make newer players have something that's really good, that's accessible. But if you have to be Steel Path to get it, then it's like, all right, the accessibility went way down if you have to get to Steel Path. Because there's so many people who will never get through Steel Path because they, quite frankly, a lot of people just don't want to do missions by themselves. I'm so sick and tired of people saying, hey, can someone carry me through these missions, through all these star chart missions? And it's like, dude, no one wants to do your missions for you. Nobody wants to do the spy missions for you that are going to take 2 seconds. Nobody, like, sure, the harder missions, maybe interception or whatever, maybe disruption, like stuff you're having difficulty with, that people will help with. But nobody wants to help you out with a mission that's going to take 5 seconds by yourself. That's just being flat out fucking lazy. And there's a lot of people in Warframe like that who, sometimes, like, everyone asks questions, right? There is such a thing as stupid questions, but in the Warframe community, I swear, dude, like, people will ask questions that will take 3 hours to explain to them through text, through in-game chat, when they can just Google it and have a concise, like, a tirelessly worked on video that somebody put together, and they just don't even pay attention to it. So, the Warframe, I don't know if it's just the Zoomers who are getting into the game now, but they're lazy. They're fucking lazy. They don't want to do a 10-minute mission by themselves. And so my point being is that while this weapon seems like it's supposed to be a way to accessibly get like a really good weapon, I think a lot of people are going to be locked out of it by virtue of they are just fucking lazy and they don't want to do, I think it's like 70 missions. I don't know. Back in my day when I did the star chart, I did the star chart ages and ages and ages ago, way before Steel Path was a thing. I did the star chart when there was Star Chart 1.0. Back in my day, let me tell you, back in my day, things were a little different. We had a little bit different things. So way back when I did it, there was less mission types, less whatever, less story. So I was able to do all my star chart missions in about a week or two. I could have done it sooner, but there were some, like, I had to, when I restarted on I restarted on PS4 when it came out. And when I restarted, I didn't start with Loki Prime like I originally did. So I had to go and get Loki Prime or go and get whatever stealth frame. So I had to wait a little bit, so I couldn't initially do all of the star chart because it's just so much easier to do spy mission when you have a frame that's built for it, right? So I took a little bit of time, maybe a week or two, to complete the star chart. And I feel like nowadays people, it's taking them much longer to complete the star chart. One, because there's more content, and two, because like I said, there's so much breadth of Warframe, there's so much to do. And people get lazy and they feel like, Steel Path's probably no big deal. And it's a shame that there's no other way to get to Steel Path, because quite honestly, it's like people are missing out on the best content. Like I've helped so many people through Star Chart. I've helped my friends, I've helped randoms, I've helped clan members. I help all these people through Star Chart, and I'm at the point where I absolutely refuse to help people with Star Chart. I'll see people saying, hey, can I get some help? Hey, can I get some help? And I'll message them and be like, what do you need help with? What do you need help with? Is it Steel Path? Because I refuse to assist you if it's just normal Star Chart. Because that's not fun for me. It's not engaging. It's not anything. But speaking of fun and engaging, we have a low kill count here. This weapon is my frame. This weapon is not the best for getting a high level of kills, but we're probably only going to do 10 minutes anyway. But you can see that we're efficiently killing stuff, even when nourish goes down and we don't have it online because we're having some energy difficulties here. It's totally fine. Now this particular build is a health tank, like I said, so I need to be tanking a little bit more. I'm not playing optimally here. I'm not getting all my Matter Eye buffs and whatnot, but that's totally fine. But anyway, I feel like this is supposed to be an accessible weapon, but it might ironically be inaccessible by virtue of having to get to Steel Path for it. So I hope there is another way to get this without having to do Steel Path, because between a combination of there's so much to do, people are lazy, and it does take like a week or two. People might not be able to access this for a while, but it's going to be some people's main weapon. It's not going to replace the God Sigma Chads like me and you, who probably watching this, who have really good Rivens, really good like circular builds where the primary ties into the melee, like everything's balanced off each other. But for random Andes who just have a build that's thrown together haphazardly, it's very easy to mod. It's very easy to get big damage, especially if you're using Nourish. You could say that about any weapon, right? Just slap Nourish on it and have a day. But I think this weapon excels a lot more with Nourish because one, it has the status chance. That doesn't matter for Nourish because you're going to apply the viral anyway. But it helps for its lack of. It does have a decent weighting for slash, but it's not perfect. It's by no means perfect. So it kind of makes up, by virtue of it just having a lot of statuses, it kind of makes up for that lack there. Now the biggest problem with this weapon is you will obviously need something to handle acolytes with. This weapon is not really good with acolytes, so I stay strapped with my Tendril Prime, which is it's got secondary encumbered, so it's basically like a different type of Kuvanuk ore, but I have a God Roll Riven for it, so the circumstances are a little bit different. So this particular build, some of the Eximus, you might need to dab them up real quick before you completely kill them, but I foresee that's the high level, like 1 million level Steel Path. You'll probably need to dab some of the Eximus enemies up before you execute them, or you could use an armor strip. If you're going to pair this weapon up with some armor strip, it's going to be insane, but you could say that with like most weapons, right? Like the Stug with some armor strip is going to be able to pull it in some work. So see where takes a little bit to get the overguard, but that's fine. So it's by no means a perfect weapon, but I think that this weapon is excellent for people who have just gotten into Steel Path. I think that's going to be its main intended audience. I just got into Steel Path. I don't really know how builds work, how viral slash works. What should I wait this for? Those types of people, this is like, get this weapon 1000%. And if you don't have Nourish, you might be able to do a viral slash build, but it's the results, right? Like, you're going to need to swap some things. You're going to need Arcane Merciless. You're going to need to change up some things a little bit. Regardless, no matter how you build this, it's kind of one of those brain dead weapons where it's hard to fuck it up. You really got to try to have a bad build for this. Like, I think it's difficult to make something that's just like a unworkable build. And like I said, with Nourish, sometimes you can brute force, just a raw puncture weapon, but we're above that. But I do foresee that if you're going to take this into endless level scaling, you need some sort of armor strip, or you need some sort of secondary weapon to... is that my weapon? Oh, that's his weapon. He doesn't know his weapon's on the floor. LOL. But you will need a little something. You understand? A little something. But we're kind of struggling here. Part of it is the frame I'm choosing. The weapon is it's still kind of single target, right? So there's still some issues there. It's not going to decimate everything. But between my frame choice and whatever, we are going to be struggling a little bit here to keep the support timers up. But we're going to leave in just a little bit here. Let's see if we can make it possibly to 15 or 20. We'll see. Part of it is I don't like playing with Niduses because I feel like they're grouping all these enemies up that they can't fucking kill because they're trying to build up stacks, and it slows everything down. So I always feel like I'm the bad guy for coming and killing everything that they're doing. But the way I look at it, like my Nidus, I have a build video about it. I don't have that issue with my Nidus because I use an insatiable build. So when I see these other players, it's like I kind of don't have any remorse, which is rude, right? It kind of rude, but at the same time, it's like we're probably gonna fail this mission now. I'm not trying to blame this Nidus player completely, but it's just one of those trials and tribulations of sometimes frame combinations can be a little wacky and a little bit nutty, a little bit fiber one brownie time. So it's a fun weapon. It's a little bit mechanically complex. I think those are always the best weapons, right? Something that's got a little bit of mechanical depth, but it's not too much. Like sometimes the Proboscis Cernos, that's a good example of it could possibly be a little bit too much. There's a little too much going on. For some people, even the Nataruk, the charge, getting the perfect shot, is a little too much complication for people. I like to think the Archiplasmor is like the perfect middle ground where, sure, it's just point and click, right? It's just point and click, but it's a little bit more than that because it's ricocheting. So there's a little bit of mechanical depth to it. And I feel like this Braton Prime is or this Incarnon form is in a similar place where there's a tiny bit of mechanical depth, but it's not overbearing and it's not going to completely make it like a pain to use. There's some weapons where you have to use alt fires to do this and do that, and it's just overly complicated. So there's a fine line to make. Sometimes overly complicated can be good though, but I think that this weapon is it's just barely mechanically complex, but it's just not that complex, if that makes sense. But you will, with my particular build, you will have to pair it with something. Like I said, I always stay strapped with a status spreader, as you usually should. And let's see if do we have the stalker over here, or is he with the rando? He's with the rando. So we're only going to do 15. I don't really have faith that we'll get very far. Not really even because of this weapon. A lot of it is like it's a mostly single target weapon. Even with the Incarnate form, there is AoE to it. But it's Oberon, my guy. I'm playing as Oberon. I thought Oberon would be a good choice to really show you the weapon as opposed to the frame. And I don't like using stealth frames for showcases because stealth frames are not normal gameplay. Like most people aren't playing stealth frames. Most players are using frames where things are aware of them and shooting at them. And I think this gives you a little bit better picture of that, especially because this is a health tank frame. I'm sick of people acting like it's impossible to play health tank frames. It's really not. You're probably not going to level cap for them, but different tools for different jobs, right? Why would you, you're bringing the wrong tool for the job, right? Like you're not going to use a flathead on a Phillips or whatever. Like the different tools for different jobs. And I think a lot of people don't understand that these days. So basically I'm trying to bring the health tank build so you can see the tool being displayed. Oh, fuck. Well, we're at the 15-minute mark, so I don't care if this fails, honestly. We're going to get out of here. I'm not trying to say it was completely the Nidus's fault we failed. It was also mine because it's kind of a little bit more difficult to talk and play, and I'm also playing a mid-frame with if I had to rate the Braton Prime, I don't give many weapons or frames S tier. I think S tier is when there's a problem. It's like Nuke War. I would say the Nuke War is an S tier secondary weapon because its unique status effect just eliminates the viability of many other weapons. But stuff like the Archiplasmor, the Kuvazar, I would say those are A+ weapons. Kuvachakar, A+ weapons. This Braton, I would say even if you built this even more optimally and you really kitted it out, and you did a super min-max build, I would say this Braton Incarnon is like a B+ weapon. It's not in the A echelon, but it's still a very viable and good weapon. That hopefully I foresee this is made for people who are just getting into Steel Path. They're having trouble. They might not have Kuva weapons yet, but nowadays it's like, how do you not have Kuva weapons even before Steel Path? I don't understand. But either way, Kuva, some people just can't be bothered to Google how to get a Lich and how to get the weapons for it. So this is kind of where it comes in. It's a little easier than that. You just load up the tower and you just play and you'll eventually get the adapter for it. Whereas with Liches, you have to go to the planet, do the capture mission, you have to get the right one, then you have to build it up, and then you got to do all this other shit. So it's kind of like an easier way to get a good weapon, but as a result, it's not going to be as high tier as other weapons, which may be slightly harder to get or easier if you're in the know like me and you. So that's basically it. Yeah, that's my consensus. I'll very quickly show you the Oberon build very quickly. I'm not going to go over it, but like I said, it's a health tank build. We got all this shit going on, and then here's the stuff I got on it, and we have nourish. So that is the build. Here it is one more time. And feel free to swap out the Frostbite with Merciless. You may have better results. I'm getting damage from Nourish. So like I said, if you were to build this for yourself and you wanted a viral slash build, let's just do that real quick. You'll put on the primary Merciless here, and then just swap this little fucker out right here. Let's swap it with Malignant Force. And then boom, you have viral. It should be viral heat on the explosion. So this would be better for your AoE. You might have better results for this, but part of this is we're kind of having fun, right? I think other Warframe creators are going to get super decked out min-max builds, but this is something that uses a unique loadout and a unique weapon build that works very well, and this can scale very high. I did like a 2-hour run with this weapon, and I was able to competently do stuff. But like I said, some of the Eximus, I did need to butter them up with my Tendril Prime here. I did need to get a little bit of my, it has secondary encumber on it. I had to dab them up a little bit or use my slash melee weapon to finish off the Eximus. But I don't think anybody ever thought the Braton would be an Eximus killer, right? So while this isn't going to replace your Archoplasmors and what have you, it is a suitable and good weapon that can help lower end players reach the echelon of good players. So without rambling too much, that's everything. So I hope you enjoy this weapon. Let me know what you think of it and your opinions. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you research what the US government is doing right now currently to take away your rights, because they're currently doing it right under your fucking face because you're too distracted by some war that's going on in another country that barely affects you. So yeah, go do that post haste.